It seems like a lifetime ago, but Wilfried Nancy is still less than 3 weeks into his reign as Celtic manager, and these last few weeks have been turbulent to say the least. With a first win now under his belt, however, reasons for optimism are appearing on the park at least. So is Wilfried Nancy the man to steer us to 5 in a row and beyond? And what will happen this January transfer window? We'll cover it all and more in tonight's Celtic Exchange Weekly. Miff, Wilfried Nancy, yes or no?
Maybe. So I think there's I'm on board with the chance creation, less on board with the chance missing, and the wide open lack of defensive structure. Albeit that, looking at the goal we lost against Aberdeen, that's down to various poor decisions and implementation of their ability by the players. So my biggest worry in all of this is that the players pick up victories in spite of the manager and don't fully commit to his style of play, which means we never get to see the real potential of it. But there's also the part of me that says, well, regardless, we have almost bemoaned the status quo of Celtic's success yet ceiling in Europe, and maybe it was always going to take a self-inflicted transitional season to go through the pain that's required to play in a different way, to have solutions to different problems within a playing squad. Now, that might mean that the existing playing squad is massively broken up over the next 2 to 3 transfer windows. I think if that's the case, then so be it, because we need to have a bigger picture. What lurks behind all of that is the board. And the biggest issue in all of this is that the manager has been placed in situ by a board who clearly have shown quite a flair for spiting their fans and hold the fans in contempt. So it's that bothers me more than necessarily the manager trying to implement his style. I still think there's issues there in terms of the manager getting the buy-in from all the players, but that's natural when someone comes in and tries to change a system and change style. Do some of these players have enough credit in the bank with us as fans? I would say some do, some don't.
Some of them.
So that's what's creating the uncertainty that we're seeing on the pitch, in my opinion. But the lingering issue here is the one that sits behind all of this, and the board, excuse me, and the subsequent backing of the manager in the transfer market and identification of the players that he wants and we need.
Paddy, Miff mentions Wilfried Nancy still being different, and it's really different. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about it? And just in short, is he a yes or a no for you?
He's a yes for me, more in the sense of we need to work with it. We need to really give this guy the best opportunity that he can get. He's come in at a very difficult time, but I really appreciated his honesty, and I think a few fans had said, when is a good time? When is the right time for him to arrive? He's come out and said himself, I wanted to get in there as soon as possible because I wanted to assess this team and see what it really needs. And it needs a lot of work. I think we've spoke about that quite a lot. So for me, I think that's brave to go and do that, especially when they've just won 7 out of 8 games. There is a little bit of consistency. The confidence is a bit more higher. But if you take a look at the whole season, that team's got a lot of vulnerability in it. And I think he's made the decision to be able to then sit down with Tisdale, if he's going to be the guy that's going to be making the signings in January, and say, here's what this team needs. It puts a lot of weight and a lot of pressure onto Paul Tisdale, and it puts a lot of weight onto the Celtic board to go and deliver that, because if you don't do that, then for me, they've sold the guy short. They really, really have.
Do you know, you see the whole appointment of Wilfried Nancy has put everybody in the spotlight, because as you say, Paul Tisdale is our de facto director of football. He is head of football operations, to give him his proper title.
The doctor, he called himself.
Yeah,
so he's got to give surgery to this team.
Correct. So if the Wilfried Nancy thing fails, all eyes on Tisdale. If the January window fails, all eyes on him as well, in addition to his summer failings. And the players, this system, unique as it is, there's no wiggle room, there's no escaping it. It highlights the best and the worst of players, is what I would say. It really exposes people on a football level. Liam Scales potentially suffering more than anyone under that, and we'll get to that shortly. James, you were as no as could be last week in terms of Wilfried Nancy, fair to say?
Yeah, it's fair to say, aye.
Is your no slightly less no at the moment, or where are you at?
No. I was delighted, obviously, to get the win, just to stop the rot, and delighted for him personally, just what he'd gone through at Tannadice, which I think we can say time and board and all these things, but he's got to take a lot of the share of the blame himself. I think he's not helped himself out on many things.
I would agree.
So glad to get the win. I saw enough in the game that this could be fun, could be terrifying. I take the personnel issues that if you change some of these players, then if you don't have Ralston Trusty skills as your back three, if you get more robust Mjällby Valharan type players, then maybe you go a bit further. You've got a gap in the wing, and just to bring the whole team back, why not? But we don't, and we can't. I don't think this formation is going to do us any favours in Europe. I think we'll get absolutely pummeled in Europe under this formation. I don't know what the board will do. He'll go in January, he'll go in the summer, but I think he'll go.
Why would he go in January?
I think there's potential that they're biding their time to get someone to make the change, but more likely the summer.
I don't see that at all. I see you. Michael Nicholson spoke before Canadice, talked about the fact that they're making plans with Wilfried Nancy to get the player he wants. And I can't see them working hand in hand with him to get those players to then bag him. Maybe in February, March or whatever.
It would be done before signing any players. They would get past the Rangers game maybe. If they're going to do it, right after then, bring someone else with different ideas. I think it's got potential for that. I think the start was so bad that, Peter Martin isn't pulling that rumour out of nowhere last Thursday.
I would agree with that.
There's something in that, whether Celtic effusively deny it or whatever. There's some conversation that's gone on, whether he was warned to get a grip or he was gone, whatever it was, something happened. So there's enough tension around Celtic that win, again, whilst I'm delighted for him, just on a personal note, I don't think it really changes much in the grand scheme of things, because we saw the frailties exposed again.
Somebody made the point, I think it was Stephen McGowan, he done some sort of piece in the last week or so, and he said all he can do is win games of football, and we're living game to game at the moment, aren't we? Because you can breathe after the Aberdeen game, and everyone personally is pleased for the guy, right? He's had such a tough time, and there's signs and reasons for optimism. But now that pressure goes on to the Livi game, and if he loses that, we're back to square one. But if he wins that, hold on a minute, we're starting to see a pattern, and we're moving into something different. And then it's Motherwell, then it's Rangers, and whatever comes from that. And ultimately, the only currency that matters in football is winning games of football. So it doesn't matter what he says or even who he signs. You've just got to win games. It's what it all comes down to.
I think there's an element of looking at a system that is creating chances. We seen it
by the bucket load.
We've seen it under Rodgers. We speak about the horseshoe of death many a time in the show. It had slowed down. Now, whether Celtic and whether Nancy feels that we are very vulnerable and could be exposed easily at the back, but we should have enough about us to go and outscore the other team.
Yeah.
Reminds me quite a lot of what Ange was implementing when he first came in. But the thing I would agree with yourself is that would never work in Europe. So it needs to be, there needs to be the right players. It needs to be an elite.
You're talking £40 million talent.
Footballers, exactly.
No,
I know.
You know what I mean? This
So,
won't work.
But the thing is that that's been what he's brought to Celtic. That's what he's brought in his interview, his setup. This is what I'm about. This is my philosophy, and I'm not changing that. So someone at Celtic feels that it can work. So that's why, for me, there's a lot of pressure on them as much as there is on the manager to get this right. And I think this window's going to test. I don't think he'll go in January. I really don't. And I know what you're talking about with, obviously, no smoke without fire with what Peter Martin was saying. I think there is an element of they have reacted to basically what has been a crazy 2.5 weeks, but they've realised, hang on, we've just released that statement for Nicholson the day before the game.
Day off.
The day off.
It was hours before kickoff.
They will never back on that. They just won't do it.
Imagine putting that statement out a few hours before a game that could jeopardise the manager's position. If that was in the thinking of the board to warn them as to his performances. Just the lack of nous from it. And also to put out a statement of your chairman resigning just before a game as well. Just it shows we don't care about you. We don't care about the football. We just care about ourselves.
100%. I mean, the whole thing was in the hours approaching the game, Peter Lawler's resigned. The statement goes out. The statement goes to the London Stock Exchange, and then the video piece is out about 3 hours before kickoff. And that tells you, my big thing about Celtic and the board is they don't seem to have a football first approach. The most important thing, I just mentioned there, that winning games is the most important thing, but protecting and supporting the football team and the manager as part of that is the most important thing. How does that help Wilfried Nancy?
He's having to answer questions on it.
Well, he's now there's a microphone in front of you and there's chairman resigned and he's like, I don't even know who this guy is. Just it's not his job to do that. And it takes further focus away from the game. And fans then go up there full of more questions than answers once again. And I don't agree one bit with the chanting against Wilfried Nancy.
No.
I think it's really poor. I don't think it's a Celtic thing. It's an individual thing. It's a personal thing. Do what you want if it's your thing. Wouldn't be my thing. I don't think it's the right way to do it. But there's people going up there pretty pissed off. And the Lawwell news and the follow-up video doesn't help with any of that at all.
And pretty pissed.
And a bit
Half hours up to
Absolutely.
Tannadice.
Absolutely.
You're on the wine and cans. You've just watched us chuck away. I'm not going to go in. I'd rather we didn't do that, but at the same time, I totally understand it in the context, because you bear in mind that's off the back of a defeat in a cup final as well. So
There's anger everywhere.
there's anger, but the focus of the anger is the excuse me, the important thing. And I felt on Sunday, there was a bit more cohesiveness around that with what happened pre-game. There was a good show of support for that protest. I kind of stayed and listened to a bit of it myself. But ultimately, all this boils down to, well, certainly for me, is manager's been brought in, so there would naturally be a bit of, maybe not hostility, but he's seen as the board's man.
Yes, the board's man.
Everybody's backs are up straight away, because anything the board does bad, the vast majority of Celtic fans right now. So are you coming at it from an angle where you're going, right, well, not that you're wanting them to fail, but you're ready to be really, really critical in any first wee sign that you see, rather than if you reverse that and go into the Ange scenario where we're just begging him to do well when he came in. Big difference here is that with Ange had a more storied past and more of a catalogue of successional qualifying at Australia for the World Cup.
You
and
listen
things
to
like
when
this.
you go, I believe.
Yeah, really good communicator as well. On top of that, with Nancy, it's maybe a wee bit more. There's a wee bit more where you're waiting to see how things develop. But all I want is for Celtic to win, right? So when I'm turning up, and should Celtic have won all the games bar maybe the Roma game, but even at that, they should have been closer at the end of it than what they were. In the Hearts game, they should have won the Hearts game easily. They dominated Hearts for the vast majority of the game, but they didn't. And it's that fickle. It's just that fickle. You need to be, as well as a good manager, as well as getting the fans on side, the players on side, the board on side, managing all those things, you need to have a bit of luck.
He's not had luck, I'll give you that.
And
100%.
Yeah, but there's line on it where he says, I don't believe in luck, but we've not had any of it.
Every time I suppose it lands in the keeper's arms, instead of hitting him off the back of the head and grin.
the Maeda header for me at Tannadice is
Ingles as well.
the
Ingles will do
absolute,
them.
the absolute icing
Epitome of
or cherry on top of the cake. We to rattle the post that hard, the header. I mean, just unbelievable when it should have went in.
As the goalie
But
turns.
But all it comes back to is what will buy him time. What will buy. It's even happened for the Aberdeen game.
Yeah.
Happened. There's just been a general softening because everybody goes, like you said, everybody breathes. Everybody goes, oh right, that's the run finished. But what was very apparent when you were looking at his appointment was how difficult a set of fixtures these were.
It was idiotic, man.
And not everybody's James and Tino just a 5-0 Celtic win every game. Other people look at
He's
it
used
and
to
go,
no Jeopardy football,
you know.
relegation and failed MLS.
So that part, all it's going to take is drop points in the next 3 games, and that's just going to ramp back up again. So we find ourselves in this really bizarre position where I don't think anything's got to change anytime soon. The board seem to be saying he's our man.
Mhm.
I think they're going to give him some players. What more concerns me is Tisdale's role in our club comparative to what he's achieved in football is totally out of kilter. And again, it's all coming back to the board. So we're heading in a direction driven by the board, with people appointed who they see as fit. It just seems to me, on the one hand, I like the idea of some freshness.
Mm.
We want that. We want something to change. We want to approach things a wee bit differently. But for me, I'm not entirely sure, starting with Tisdale, manager, TBC, starting with Tisdale, that the people that we're entrusting with these decisions have the experience and ability to make them.
And let's focus on Paul Tisdale and that very question in the middle section. I want to cover that in a bit of detail with regard to the January window and should he be entrusted for all of that. Just on something you said there, Miff, I think everyone's been begging for a bit of freshness. All this freshness comes in, we're like, not that fresh. Just take it easy with the freshness.
It's changes, but
it's massive.
Yeah.
And just on that, so there's a quote that I mentioned in an article today or yesterday. Wilfried Nancy speaking after the game. I thought it was good and it was enjoyable to hear him speak without firefighting, right? His first half a dozen interviews were like, what about this? And you don't need to win, and tactics boards and all that stuff getting thrown at him. So he was constantly on the back foot. At Aberdeen, he could come in and just explain a bit of his philosophy. All the more reason why he should have absolutely been given an opening press conference of his own to explain all these things. But it was good to hear after Aberdeen. And one of the lines he used, which I liked and I highlighted, was he said, the game is a movie. It's dynamic. Yeah. Sometimes we've got good moments. Sometimes we've got bad moments. And that's just the way it goes. And what we've witnessed in recent times under Brendan Rodgers is this complete control to the nth degree. Brendan Rodgers would ideally like to control every minute, if not every second of a 90-minute game. And it became so boring. And the players were so safe. I was watching some Aberdeen highlights this morning, and there was a chance for Tony Ralston, broke out on the right-hand side and glanced to his left, and it was a pass under Rodgers he would have made to Trusty or Scales. And he just thought, I'm going this way. I think he's been told to go this way. And all of a sudden we started to stitch up some passes, and it was good to see. So I'll ask you the question in terms of just purely on the park stuff. What do you like that you're seeing under Wilfried Nancy? And likewise, what you're not enjoying so much?
It's Cavalier football. It's all, let's all go.
It's exciting though.
Exactly. That is exciting. I'm just saying, you look more broadly, is it going to be effective, right? So it can be exciting without being effective. I mean, Ange in Europe was exciting, but getting pumped.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So
we're getting pumped, but it was great to see.
beating Real Madrid, nothing each after 30 minutes. You know what, that nonsense? Give me something that wins. So again, it's your narrowing of the question. It's like, you can have this or this. It's like, no, I want that and that and that.
That wasn't in the options.
It's like, I think you say in the Daily Day, you can have Rodgers, you can have Nancy. It's like, surely there's an option C out there somewhere, right? So what you really wanted under Rodgers was more exciting football. You know, the control stuff was just getting wild. I think it's hopefully football starting to move away from that. I noticed Eddie Howe doing it, that kind of like, you know, absolute control stuff, and it's just dull. You know, it's not even like Mourinho, like, you know, defending.
No.
It's just control, you know. Mourinho going to score a goal.
Suffocate teams. Suffocate the game, to be honest.
Yeah. So, I like the excitement of it. I can see where it's going to end up.
But I suppose, in short, you like the excitement, we all do, but it's the jeopardy, it's the excitement it's high risk, high reward football. That's exactly what it is. And I think we can outscore every team domestically.
Yeah,
I do. I share your fears about Europe, I think. And we've got a bit of time to practice it before Bologna and whatever comes beyond that, but could be.
The problem will be what he's not used to in Scotland. Sorry, interrupt you there.
Okay.
In Scotland is that if we don't score first and Livi do, they know how to just pack the box. You know,
and it's the mentality of a lot of the players.
So
absolutely.
You're not to score more goals. You have to score first every time.
What I would say is, I think part of the reason we're creating so many chances is that because we are playing in a slightly different style. You notice that against St Mirren, against Dundee United, we're playing through the middle a hell of a lot more. And see, because of that, it's offering a different problem for teams to try and solve.
Yeah.
Normally, you can just see they'll kind of double up on sort of inside and wing positions, so that we were doing the horseshoe and going back to start again. We're trying to be a hell of a lot more intricate. Nygren was frustrating the life out of me on Sunday because he was first touching it all the time, whereas before his biggest problem was that he was holding on to the ball for too long. So he's almost went completely the other way as well. But you can see what the intent is. The intent is to play quickly and play in different areas of the pitch where we would normally build up. I like that part of it, but the bit I don't like, just like what happened for the Aberdeen goal, and I think we even did it against St Mirren in the cup final. Trusty, for the second goal, Trusty just passes the ball straight to St Mirren player. You know, and for the Aberdeen goal, Scales just absolutely launches himself away abandons his position when we're not in control of the ball. So there's those wee bits where you can see it's still trying to bed in.
It's so new.
But this kind of is what we asked for.
Are you still scrambling for a late Christmas gift this year with the big day fast approaching? Then look no further. If they love Celtic, then give them something they'll actually use this year by gifting membership of Celtic Exchange on Patreon. Exclusive podcasts, extra episodes and real fan debate. Give 6 months for £30 or, between now and midnight on Christmas Eve only, give them a full year's membership for only £48. More Celtic, less rapping, and it can all be done in less than 30 seconds. Jump to patreon.com/Celtic Exchange/gift for Christmas sorted with Celtic Exchange. That's what I'm...
It's the lack of handover, sorry, but it's a lack of handover, which is not Nancy, it's all board. The lack of management of this appointment has just been abysmal.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be surprised.
And I think that's what
we
we can't forget. I totally agree on that. I think there's a huge
confidence in all these things.
Yeah, there's a huge element of that.
I'm just going to offer a quick something, right? There's a lot been said about... I really don't buy into people saying that Wilfried Nancy has been extremely arrogant. Certainly not in what he says. I can see being read as arrogant. You can maybe deem some of his actions as arrogant, and the big one that falls into that equation is the lack of time spent with Martin O'Neill. And I would debate that he should have spent more time with Martin O'Neill, even just out of courtesy. And who knows, Martin O'Neill did have any big issue with it, and he wasn't making it a thing. But Jim White and Talksport make it a big thing, and that's their job.
But not everybody's pals with Martin O'Neill like you, Tino.
Not everybody. But the thing, what could Martin O'Neill tell Brendan Rodgers? What could Martin O'Neill tell Wilfried Nancy about how Liam Scales can adjust to this system?
How long you got?
But that's
on.
No, but that's something. Martin O'Neill doesn't go to
player by player on that. Is he any good? Should I put him in the wing? No, it's Liam Scales.
No. You're missing my point. He doesn't know the Wilfried Nancy system. Right? He's no idea about how Wilfried Nancy wants this guy to do that.
That's what the sit down's for. Tell me you're going to deploy, and I'll tell you who fits and who doesn't.
No, it's a completely different world. It's a completely different world, and I don't really think there's much Martin O'Neill could have added to that.
The only thing is categoric that Nancy got wrong. Categoric is exactly that. It's undefendable. I'm defending it. I really don't think there's a lot of
Again, I said this last week, lads. We don't know what's happened there. We don't know if that's been a planning failure. We don't know. I read online that someone had said that O'Neill was heading off.
You move mountains to get that time with Martin O'Neill if you've got the desire to have it.
But my counter to that on that one, James, is that if Celtic are turning around and saying, here's your plan, here's your day, and it's your first day at your new club, you're going to say, I no bother. Of course, yeah.
No. If you've got a chance to get an hour with a guy who's a club legend and has just steered us out of the fires of hell.
I think there's a huge element of, there's people at the team that know the state of that club, the state of that squad just now. Sean Maloney's still involved with Celtic. I'm pretty sure that he'll be able to give a good rundown as well.
Gavin Strachan,
I think
it's not asking.
Fans jumped on that last week, and I really disagreed with it because we don't know the full ins and outs of what happened. We don't, and will we? No, because it's Celtic. They won't communicate it.
But if you use your eyes to see what happened on Sunday against Hearts, you can see he didn't know that squad, and it'd be nice for somebody to tell him what that squad is.
There's guys in his dugout know the squad, though.
But is he asking them?
Gavin Strachan's been with the squad for 4 years. Martin was with him for 8 games. So I'm sure Gavin Strachan could give him all the heads up he needs on what Liam Scales can do.
Gavin Strachan isn't Martin O'Neill. Martin O'Neill is Martin O'Neill.
I don't think
he's got the gravitas, but you can't tell me that he can tell us more about Liam Scales than Gavin Strachan can.
I think O'Neill had worked out the squad after his first 3 or 4 games.
I would think it would be a bit unfair to say that Wilfried Nancy said, right, Martin, thanks for your 10 minutes, go and get your flight. We just don't know.
I think
if that's happened.
We're not going to take any more time on it, but I think Martin O'Neill was quite light about it, and as I say, people have made more about it than potentially what it was.
He's not two-footed on him. It's not his style, you know.
So it makes for a good headline.
The big thing I was going to see in terms of we're looking at what we're seeing for this team just now, and obviously the difference between coming from Hearts, Roma, St Mirren, and then Dundee United. The thing that really pleased me on Sunday's performance, and we're speaking about how good we've been going forward, is just this final third issue that we've got. The big thing for me was watching us off the ball on Sunday, and albeit 10 men, but even in the first half before Aberdeen went down to the 10, the pressing is there. And we speak about the vulnerability of the back three. That's massive. We've not got those players that we're talking about, the Valharans, Mialbis, or even Baldy. But what we are seeing is that 4, because it seems to be a more identified middle 4 now, with the three forwards in front of them. That 4 are hunting in packs on either side. So you've got your winger, your forward, and then you've got your 2 midfielders on each side that are hunting down and trying to close the ball down. That was a lot more evident, and that is giving me a bit of hope in terms of suffocating teams.
Yang, for the first goal against Aberdeen, is hunting with real intensity.
Yeah.
And
getting help.
Said it for long enough, Muff. Just in terms of Wilfried Nancy tactically, you mentioned a lot about going through the middle. I watched, there's a good breakdown on Twitter by a lad, John Walker. I don't know John Walker. John's big Rangers fan by all accounts, but UFA licensed coach, and gives some good analysis. And his big thing is Celtic have put an emphasis on the left-hand side. Even just picture the last 3-4 games, the amount of crosses Tierney's getting in, and even Liam Scales and Dies Maeda, a lot of their stuff is coming down the left-hand side. There's some stats as well just about some of the crossing accuracy that we've seen over these last few games. Domestically, take the Roma game out. An 8% accuracy against Hearts, a 16% accuracy against St Mirren, 21% against Dundee United, and 23% against Aberdeen. And it seems a big thing for Wilfried Nancy is rather than whip it in high into the box, which we've seen time after time after time, and they get cleared by the Livingstons and the whoever's, he's big on the cutback and he's big on the passing across the face of goal. And I'm not want to make it a pile on Johnny Kenny, but the clear-cut chances we're creating, and even look at our first and third goals at the weekend, the cutback to Benjamin Negren, it's a great goal.
Yeah.
And James Forrest's goal is a great goal. It's really good football. So we're seeing a lot down that left-hand side. In terms of crosses per 90 minutes, we were averaging 17 under Martin O'Neill, and we're now averaging 33 per 90 under Wilfried Nancy. And there is no doubt, Paddy, that the game has been switched up, and I suppose it was never going to work in game 1 or game 2 or even game 3, and that's the naivety of the timing and what the club put in place. But you can see, bit by bit, changes and improvements on what he's trying to do.
You look at Rodgers when we were, obviously, we've been speaking about Kyogo before we come on here, and I'm speaking about him with some of my mates, and a lot of people thinking that he kind of went off his game. A lot of people were realising that the system that Rodgers was playing wasn't suiting him. I actually think you're seeing with Nancy is that he's adapting the system to the forward that he's playing. And actually, if you're Johnny Kenny, and if you're Johnny Kenny of Shamrock Rovers in the Conference League, he was eating those goals up all day.
Yeah, the pressure's got to him.
Absolutely. So that kind of, you seen it with Iheanacho and what he tried to do with Maeda in the first game, playing those low balls from Schmeichel, hoping for Maeda to hold up, which wasn't working. No. Iheanacho, it was working. Yeah. I'm seeing him able to adapt in that kind of final third, and how we are getting the ball into the box and utilising the strengths of the striker, never mind utilising the strengths of the winger. Yeah,
we're seeing that, Miff, and it's horses for courses. You can't play the same way with Maeda through the middle as Iheanacho and with Johnny Kenny. They're so different.
I think Kenny's hold-up play's been actually pretty decent across the two games. His missed chances. Actually, I know I shouldn't, but I feel really sorry for Johnny Kenny, just because...
On a personal level?
But not because of the missed chances, but two managers have come in and kind of dropped him down and then had to revert back to him. And I think from a psychological point of view, he's going on that part known that he's not any manager's main man. He's then missing chances, which shows why he's not any manager's main man. But to have had that boost after scoring in the semi-final against Rangers, and him looking like he was maybe going to kick on and go on a wee run, he then got dropped again, and so there's wee things there where I do feel for him a bit, but the only way to get around that, and any professional footballer has to have that rock solid mentality where they go, next chance is getting in, he takes one of those chances, and then he's got the chance to go and spring on again. So whilst I feel for him a bit, you just cannot be. I mean, the one at Tannadice where he screwed it past the post, and even the one Saturday should have chucked himself at the one that came across, and then the one he's put by the post. Yeah, he's totally snatched at it.
It just looks like one of those strikers that go in droughts.
I think his issue is he's converted to long sleeves. So if Johnny is a Celtic Exchange listener, go back to the short sleeves, Johnny, please.
There are a couple of people that are struggling at the moment. Johnny Kenny's one. Liam Scales, as discussed, this system does expose his lack of ability as a footballer, and that sounds worse than what I mean it to sound like. He's a brilliant defender, Liam Scales, a really good defender. He's not a brilliant ball player, and this system really highlights that. But let's talk about a positive, because there's one guy who I think is excelling, and he's had an up and down season of his own, and it's Kieran Tierney. I think he's got 2 goals in his last 3 games from left centre half. And as I mentioned there, he's whipping in cross after cross. The couple that he's put on Arne Engels now, it's him. Tierney's crossed them both, those kind of ones that Engels hit the goal at Hearts and he hit the post at the weekend. But he's causing all sorts of bother. And there is a thing about Wilfried Nancy's system where he looks to create overload in the wide areas. And at the moment, the focus seems to be on Celtic's left-hand side. And Katie's reaping the benefits.
If you want somebody with a good delivery, and if he's going to be in those areas, then he's your man. Like a massive reason where we're over the moon about getting him back in his first spell. Some of his crossing was brilliant. Is he going to get to the byline like he used to? Maybe not, but his early crossing's excellent. He puts it as pinpoint. And again, a good striker. We're burying chances, and I think that would be a brilliant addition for Celtic if we were able to bring someone that could just mop that up. And I go back to it, and I know we will talk about it. I could see somebody like Kyogo being that guy.
Yeah, and again, I mentioned John's video, John Walker on Twitter. Check it out if you get a chance, because it shows another element of Celtic's play under Nancy is, as well as overloading, particularly on the left-hand side, there's a big thing about flooding the box when we get chances. So the ball is whipped in for an Arne Engels or whatever, and it's bouncing off keepers and ricocheting. See the bodies falling up. There's 2 or 3 arriving into the box late or positioning themselves for anything that spills out. You think of some recent chances, Hatate smashing the crossbar after Engels missed the header against Hearts.
Sliding in against
Callum McGregor's shot, and there was a wonder save by Mitov at the weekend. McCowan's had a couple on the edge of the box in recent times. There's lots of second phase of play type stuff going on, and that's not by luck, that's by design.
I was calling McCowan the momentum killer, man. It just so happens to, any time there's been a period of pressure above West Ham, it's whatever his effort's been the one that's been over the bar or by the post or whatever. But again, I think he's adapted really, generally in play. I think he's adapted really well to the new system.
But as I say, these things are by design, and maybe, in fact, definitely in the same way that Ange done to an extent. It's clear that you've got a coach here who puts far more emphasis on his attacking phase of play, and there's work to be done. We know defensively we need to tighten up, but there is no doubt that lots of the good things that are happening, the 31 efforts on goal against Aberdeen, X amount in the first half against Dundee United, they are as a result of the work he's done. And I suppose if we're being really optimistic, and that's where I would be, he's not had a lot of time in the training field. All of a sudden this week is the first time he's had a week between games, albeit Santa comes in the middle of that, and that will put a span on those works. But he's getting time, and with the more time he's getting, the better results he seems to be getting on the pitch.
Find me on it, just let the games play. Learn 4, 5, 6 games from now and see what he's achieved. You know, you can also,
if I see any of you being optimistic here, he's out.
No, because you can also say the games got easier as the game run went on. You know what I mean? You've gone from Hearts to Roma to St Mirren to Dundee United to Aberdeen, second bottom of the conference. You need to get context on it too. Let's let the games play. And
Dundee United's not even in the conference.
Aberdeen.
That was even easier then. We'll have that.
Aberdeen are 5 points behind Rangers.
They're not having the best. Tillian would have been gone if we hadn't lost a cup, you know. So I'm here to be hopeful.
You tell Bridle last week you are an optimist. This isn't the words of an optimist, is it?
But as my good friend Biff says, I watch football with my eyes.
Okay.
Good one.
You saved yourself quoting me there.
Let's move on. So we've mentioned Paul Tisdale, we've mentioned the January transfer window, and unless rumours are to be believed, there is a suggestion he's been bagged. I don't know. He's on.
I heard
incredibly, he's on leave at the moment at this time.
That's what would lend credence to have been bagged. Because why? If he is on leave, who signed that off 2 weeks before the transfer? You're in here on Christmas Day, son. That is that. No way.
Guys, it's Paul. I was looking for a couple of days off. Absolutely not. Anyway, it seems that he's off at the moment, and it seems that he will take control of the January transfer window, and Wilfried Nancy and Michael Nicholson have been in discussion. So if you were talking about it, so let me ask you the question specifically. How do you feel about Paul Tisdale's ongoing role within the club in general, and the fact that he will be so heavily involved in this window?
I don't think he's qualified to do the job. I think he's majorly underqualified. He's got a background in lower league English football and not a very successful one. There is nothing about what he's achieved in football would suggest he's up to the job, the magnitude that it involves at Celtic, with the pressure that comes with it as well. And I would suggest if he's taking leave 2 weeks before a transfer window, that confirms that.
Do you think, like everybody in football, I suppose, like Wilfried Nancy at some point and others, these guys are salesmen as well? Paul Tisdale has sold somebody at Celtic on a vine.
That is the problem. This is somebody at Celtic that's far too gullible to believe this and hasn't done their due diligence.
The way that Miff outlined that there is, if Paul Tisdale sat in front of you, you went, nice try, son, beat it. But you sat down with somebody at Celtic who doesn't know football as well as you, and they've fallen for it.
There's not a lot of chats.
Thank you, James.
It's Desmond.
I'm available.
There's an article doing the rounds.
There's Desmond's guy.
It might have been Paul Larkin, but there's an article anyway, and basically says that there's a lot of conjecture in some of these articles, but Tisdale is now Dermot Desmond's go-to guy, whereas for years and years it was Peter Law and all the influence he had. Tisdale is now not the main man, but he's certainly getting
he's in
the run of the football department.
What was the report about Tisdale doing a presentation?
Right, so let's catch that then. So basically at the start of the last week, I think there was two events. There was a global Celts event. Global Celts is a network of high net worth Celtic minded folk across the globe who have got a wide array of skills, sales, marketing, branding, all these things. And a couple of times a year, the club invite them in, treat them at lunch, take them to a game or two, and then maybe hone their skills. You know, you're the marketing guy, you're the guru, tell us this, that, and the next thing. And there's presentations and different things. And I believe the story goes that Paul Tisdale presented to that group. And I think on a slide that came up Director of Football, which his title is Head of Football Operations officially, but that's the first time that's been seen publicly. So, you know,
he's used to giving himself different names. And stuff,
so you can read into that. There's a story that he presented 129 right backs to Brendan Rodgers, none of who were deemed suitable. That maybe just comes down to the ego and the politics with Brendan Rodgers and the club at the time.
Which everybody suspected, I think. That you were on record saying that over Rodgers' tenure, that he was clearly being presented with players and saying no.
Yeah, you couldn't imagine the recruitment team weren't doing anything, but it seems that there's been a
I think Celtic's calibre and Rodgers' calibre, well, you know, just that shouldn't be a thing. You should be agreeing on the calibre and then you can get the calibre. Do you know what I mean? That's the mismatch.
And the last thing that Tisdale said, so it was either at this Global Celtics meeting or I think there might have been a meeting for the investors. I think
it was the investor.
It was
that was maybe Monday and Tuesday.
It's like the exec box.
And on one of the meetings, apparently he said Celtic aren't a top 100 club in Europe, which is wildly inaccurate, and also what I think to say when you're heading up the football department. I don't know if he was trying to play down expectations, but again, it would maybe tie into he just doesn't understand what Celtic are, and he's speaking to a room of smart people, and it just seems he's making a lot of mistakes. But just to go back to you, Paddy, whatever he's doing, he's got the ear of somebody, and it seems like he's got the ear of Dermot Desmond, and that's why he's becoming more and more a focus for the collective and others, because it's concerning, and to Mick's point, maybe he's underqualified as well, it's concerning that he seems to hold so much power in the football department.
Yeah, it just makes me question the hierarchy in terms of what positions they hold and what power do they have at that position. Are they operating the day-to-day of the club and keeping an eye on just the running of Celtic Park, the running of the team, making sure their wages are paid, or are they actually having an influence on how we move forward as a club? And we're thinking about obviously the next 3, 4, 5 years, or are we just taking it by chance and the guy who's the majority shareholder comes in and says, like he did with Dyla to Rodgers, we can't have this, we need to be just one step ahead of Rangers again. There just doesn't seem to be any forward thinking again, and this is what
they deny that.
Well, of course they do, but it's really, really scary when you again, it's just not mapped out what Paul Tisdale's been doing for the last year and a half. And if we're hearing about 129 right backs, for me, there's an element of Rodgers has been sold a lie when he's arrived, when he's been told that you'll get X players. He's been given Y. He's holding them to account and saying, this is not who I want to sign. They're basically saying, we don't care, we're not listening to you. Hence the reason we're signing Shin Yamada, Inamura, guys that are nowhere near the level of Celtic. This is scary. This is what I'm saying. We're about to go into another window where we're going to sign the likes of these players again. That's the concern. There's no one taking ownership here and realising, hang on, all of those last 3 windows, we've failed massively.
See on that very point, Paddy, when you look at it in hindsight, it's actually really scary how much influence 2 transfer windows had on 5 seasons for us.
Yeah.
Because those 2 windows are what sustained the success through that entire period.
Ange window 1 and 2. Yeah.
That's what, and that wasn't just down to Ange. That was obviously they're still producing the goods for us. Those players, whether anybody likes it or not.
Agreed.
And also the money that we've brought in for some of those players that get sold on.
Yeah,
it's absolutely frightening.
The bigger thing for me is Paul Tisdale. He is the de facto director of football, and official title or otherwise. Yeah, we as fans have never heard from him.
No.
There is a podcast that was doing the rounds not long before he was appointed, and it's interesting in itself. But in a Celtic capacity, we've not heard a word yet. I'm not dismissing these groups; they've got their place. Global Celtics have heard from him. Mm-hmm. The investors have heard from him, and there was a fan forum where he done a presentation. Why is the general populace of Celtic fans not?
What's the secret?
Why is everyone else not getting this? Film one of these things and put it on the YouTube channel and say, "Here's your guy, and here's why we back him." And Paul Tisdale might blow us away, or he might not, but at least we're hearing from him. And again, it falls down to this communication thing, Paddy. You're not hearing from the people you should hear with. I don't really want to hear from Chris Mackay, the Chief Financial Officer. I definitely want to hear from a football guy.
Yep. I would agree with that. But I will also want to hear about the direction of the club going forward. I'm sick of hearing statements about how everyone on the board, first and foremost, is a Celtic supporter. We know that. We would like to think that that's the case. But the second thing being is that the treatment of said board being held accountable by fans. Now, what they class as a threat, that's up to them. I don't want to see anyone's anyone's personal life's been upset in the sense of, you know, that they're feeling fearing for their safety. But you also need to take account of your actions, and the actions of this board just now is just not being. They're not listening to what the fans are having to say. They're not listening to the fans' frustrations. We've called for communications. They've admitted that themselves, that they could communicate better. Actually, their communications are they're non-existent.
Seems to have got worse.
Since he said that, communications go.
So just on that point, right? If somebody for the board, with the pleasure of inviting somebody for the board in here, just say, right, well, explain to us the football and, you know, any rationale behind selling Kyogo when you did, and the subsequent actions since in the transfer market and with the manager. Just explain it all. Explain it all. And if you can sit here and lucidly and transparently explain why different decisions have been made at different times without insulting intelligence, like the chat GPT statement did, if you can you can back up your words and sit here and explain that to us or any Celtic podcast or any media outlet, then that'll be a step forward. Yeah. But the fear is that they can't, they won't, and it's all utterly baffling.
But see to behave in that way and then not expect to be scrutinised, exactly. To your point, and then they take scrutiny as an attack of violence.
Yes.
Do you know what I mean? And it's like, no, just saying, explain yourself and show us the way forward. Now, you might get a couple of maniacs do something stupid on the internet or whatever kind of thing. They go, that's all the fans trying to attack us. We need answers aside from all the maniac stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that they're trying to, it's in their gift to put, or to their benefit to put that all in the same box. We can't answer you.
About 5,000-6,000 people standing outside Celtic Park on Sunday, just still standing. You know, there's nobody shouting, swearing, screaming. Everybody's just standing there listening to all the different speakers. And you know, whatever way the board look at this, and however they try to slice it up through stories that they're feeding to the media, however they try to ramp it up, there is a sentiment and there is a group building here. People that were even maybe previously indifferent and passive are now given it the time of day to say we need to hear definitively from the board as to what the strategy is and what the intentions are for the club moving forward, because if they don't, I think it's moving more and more towards a boycott. Unfortunately, that's where I think it goes.
It seems to be nudging towards it, and I just think just a huge dose of humility and transparency would take the board a long way, but they seem to have...
It's not their fault.
Pulled the shutters down, is a term used a few weeks ago, and it seems that that's what's happened. Let me take you back to the Kyogo thing, because actually I think a lot of folks feel that the sale of Kyogo nearly a year ago for £10 million was a bit of the first in a number of dominoes that then kind of set the wheels in motion for what we're now experiencing. And then to take us into the transfer situation, we're now in a bizarre world, and it might just be rumours, but it might be the case that we are about to replace Kyogo with Kyogo.
Did you want to move?
What do you make? Just quickly, would you have him?
No. I think, well, the system was what was troubling him, right? But I think he was also, I mean, he's scored maybe 2 goals since he's been away.
He's not scored a league goal since he left.
No, but between Rennes and Birmingham, I think there's been 2 goals at all. And you saw him come on, he started for Birmingham and he's hits the bar and no goals for that. So, I think you need to just say, well, put it this way, if we do go there, Tisdale should definitely walk, because you've not managed to find a striker for £10 million anywhere in the world.
And the thing is, as head of recruitment for Celtic, you're not restricted by budget or even geography. You can scour the globe and you've got deep pockets, and if you can't find anybody but the guy that you sold 12 months ago, then you're not doing your job, are you?
Absolutely.
Agent favour?
Yeah, there's been a lot of favours with players that have left, and if you hold on here a little bit longer, we'll try and move you on. We need it to be the right time for us as well. But the last 10 months since Kyogo left, 12 months since Kyogo left, every movement, whether it's players coming in or players coming out of Celtic, has been a calamity. If you look at it, Ian Atchell had to pay his way out of his contract in order for us to have a striker.
Yeah.
And that's embarrassing.
Only because Rodgers had his number in his phone.
Exactly. And then also you look at the comments from the Swansea manager about Adam Ida.
Yep.
You look at the fact that Maeda had his locker cleared out. Yang was on his way down to Birmingham.
Yeah.
We are an absolute embarrassment of a football club and how we operate, and people's heads need to roll, not the manager. People's heads need to roll from their roles, right? Not the manager, which we see with Brendan Rodgers. Now, they can state that he left. We all know he was gone. It's all his fault. Statements of that word, of the words of Dermot Desmond. he really needs to look inward, and he really needs to look at everyone that's on that board just now, because he's not a happy man, Desmond. And I'm pretty sure a few of them would have received a bit of a bollocking when he was back in Scotland for that short, brief period of time. But ultimately, these guys are on 6 figures a year. Say that there's heavy salaries.
So that should be their bread and butter.
And I actually don't know what they do.
Aye.
Surely one of their jobs should be, if you want to be corporate, but customer relations, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, understanding budgets and stuff, but to give you a wee phrase, Miff, to pluck the goose without making it hiss, right?
So you need to explain.
I like it.
To spend as little as possible without driving the fans mental, basically, right? And they've just failed on that entirely. Surely one of their jobs.
Well, this goose is hissing.
Surely one of their jobs is, right, we need to keep these guys on side because it'll be chaos if they don't. We need to bring in emergency PR and all that stuff.
Would it not be a reflection that if somebody sitting in the upper echelons of Celtic Park looked out the window on Sunday and saw many,
this is going well,
so many people and gone, right, how did we get here? Bearing in mind we're going for 5 in a row. All those things that come with, right? How did we actually get here? And how can we sort it?
Yeah.
But if you're coming at customer relations or fan relations from a place of resentment and contempt,
couple of snipers on top of the
that seems to be though. It's almost a case of get rid of them, kettle them out. And I think there's been so many failings that if you look at the way that Lawwell left and the absolute cheap digs, and by the way, I don't have any doubt that at times Lawwell's received unwarranted, personal abuse, and I don't absolutely do not condone that.
Right?
100%.
Everybody stands against that,
right?
Because there is a majority looking to have a conversation about it.
When I walk in to Celtic Park, we're coming from the Emirates heading towards the Rangers end, which goes by the old school where the car park is. There's still people getting selfies and all that with Peter Lawwell as he's walking out, because people wait there and the players that aren't playing to get photos with him as they're walking in or whatever. So the level of hostility that I've seen there, maybe not so much so in recent weeks, but in fairly recent history, there's security there waiting to take everybody through there. But I know that's only a very small portion size, but you see that everybody's mingling in there. I would hate to think that MD, who was employed by the board, would feel under threat as he walked through there. But at the same time, for all the reasons that we've just stated, you're going to get verbals because of that. Because you're not communicating this way, people are going to take whatever small chance they get to take a pot shot, even if it is shouting something across the way. Now, that shouldn't be abusive, whatever that is, and I'm saying that. The very, very easy way to overcome that is talk, be transparent, explain your decisions. But do it in a way where you're not actually trying to gaslight us and lie to us, like those statements that have been made, trying to explain to us how financial fair play works. And it doesn't.
Come on,
man.
We're football fans. We do this every day of life. You know what I mean?
This was in the summer we were talking about this, and here we are after all action for the fans, protests, two new managers appointed since then. The root issues still haven't been dealt with, and we're still here asking for more.
If you want to be straight, one thing Law was good at was communicating. When he chose to,
he had to.
But he could get a message.
The apology in the Gantt shirt for Dubai was his peak. That was a peak.
Yeah. We're missing somebody in that key role, and as we've said this a lot, the fact that there's...
I'll do it. I'll take a soup.
The fact that there's...
My lentil. Hi lads. There's no money.
This void...
You'll not get sit.
Open the window for the Wilfried.
He's out there again, lads.
This void that he's been created by the club, by not communicating. And the only time they've communicated recently have been inflammatory statements.
Yeah.
Like Miff, I don't doubt that Pierre Lawwell has had some unwanted, unacceptable behaviour put his way. But the statement was so fiery again. And this was the resignation statement. And that's a statement that Pierre Lawwell is now gone effectively. And it's officially till the 31st of December, but he's gone. And it's those that are left in the wake to pick up the pieces of that latest inflammatory statement, the same way that they were left to pick up the pieces of Dermot's inflammatory statement. Can we not just take the heat out of it by putting out some good, solid comms?
But this is what I'm saying. So what power does does Michael Nicholson have here? Like, is he the guy that's having to say, "Oh, thanks for that, lads. Cheers for that. I'll try and deal with this."
I think there's a point
when he's clearly not happy.
when Ross Desmond is going tonto. I think
Aye,
Michael
yeah.
Nicholson's going, "Oh, lads, you're killing me here."
Apparently, Desmond's statement was the 4th draft.
Oh,
I'd love to see that.
believe it. Aye.
Love to see draft
But
one.
the big thing for me, right, and you see a lot of fans from teams outside the Celtic asking, like, you know, what's all the worry, lads? He's
Jeff says we're going for 5 in a row.
going for
It's
5
mad.
in a row. It's where the board's vision is at. We've seen
vision.
Ambition.
no vision. Exactly. And I think the big thing for me is that I don't want to be the Celtic fan that's sitting saying that Ali McCoyster's right on open goal the
He's
other
spot
day
on.
when he was
Spot
on. Daily Mail.
or some guy in the Daily Mail.
So explain that for those who haven't seen it, Alan McCoy.
So Ali McCoy has said that
I've got you, hell yeah.
this board have kept their eye on where Rangers are at and made sure that they were always one step ahead. They've made us that bad that we are they've almost caught up in one of Rangers' worst seasons under this new takeover. They've almost caught up to where we're at as a football.
Do you know we were facing this scenario at the weekend? Had Rangers beat Hearts by a couple of goals, even if temporarily they would have been ahead of us in the table before we played Aberdeen. That is wild, given how chaotic they've been this season.
What we've mentioned in this show as well before is that they should be nowhere near us. They should be nowhere near us for the resources that we have. They are also in the potential this season. I find it very unlikely now, but if they were to go and win the league, they would get automatic Champions League qualification. A position that we are not in because we've sat on our hands. We've not spent correctly and we've not laid a glove in Europe.
And they would spend every penny of that Champions League money and more.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
Because we don't spend money we've got. They spend money they don't have.
It's too conservative.
But we are going to try and catch some transfer chat, lads, in terms of priority, obviously, as a striker at this moment in time, but maybe a bit more chat about, now that we know a bit more about Wilfried Nancy's system, what we really need. Is it a right-sided ball player? Is it a defensive midfielder? Is it 11 players?
Starters.
What we'll do, the plan is to be here next week for the weekly show and between Christmas and New Year's. We'll try and catch that then, just in terms of this week on our Patreon channel or in the coming days at least. So tomorrow, Wednesday, Christmas Eve, I'm recording with Duncan Smiley of Celtic Supporters Limited. That's the new vehicle that he's set up alongside David Lowe with a view to amalgamating shares and making some sort of move down that route. On Friday, we'll have a Livi pre-match ahead of the game on Saturday. On Saturday, TBC, but it looks like we might be recording the Christmas Bag of Cans episode. We're just trying to coordinate that just now.
Miff is telling you he's going to turn up locked and loaded.
That will Miff is going to Livy. We need to see how that plays out.
Aye.
Thankfully, maybe in the years ahead that will be a live show, but for our own safety, that won't be a live.
Don't do that.
And then on Sunday, in some way, shape or form, we'll do a Livy post-match. So if you're not already a member on our Patreon, check all that out right now at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. To close out the show, lads, then, as we know, the games come thick and fast, and as we covered earlier on, Wilfried Nancy is living game to game at this moment in time. So Livy on Saturday is the next big one. And then it's Motherwell away as well. Inform Motherwell, also away from home on Tuesday coming the 30th of December. How do we see this shaping up? Because it's two very different games. It's the hammer throwers of Livy against the now ball players of Motherwell. What are you expecting for these couple of games, Paddy?
Livy, tough one. I think any new manager got up to that ground. It's such a strange day out. We've got the three stands most of the time up there.
Over the carpet.
Aye, exactly. I just think it'll be interesting to see how we go about it. The good thing is that we've got a few players that have experienced it enough and are aware of what it takes to go and get the result up there. And I don't think it's been too bad for us as a hunting ground lately. So no, I'm feeling all right about it. I feel that if we can kind of take from what we've seen on Sunday into the game, and as I say, that press off the ball's massive for me. I think we would probably be too much for Livy. Motherwell, the only thing I'm thinking here is that some of the football that they have been playing, they've been very adventurous. I don't think they've been kettled in the way that we've come up against most teams in the league. And actually, credit to them. I think what a season they're having. But I think that game could be so exposed. It could easily be. Excited to see. I'll head along to that one and see how we get on. But I think two tough games. And again, the reason I'm saying that is that for the system he's wanting to play and the players that he's got at his disposal, it's not the strongest at the moment, and we're well aware of that. But all we could do is take chances. Where there's a Wilf, there's a way.
Well, there's a Wilf, there's a way. I have to focus on Livy for now then. And like Wilfried Nancy, it's got to be a game at a time. I agree with James's point reluctantly that if we
It's like a guy in the comments earlier says, I have to agree with James for once.
For once.
Damn it,
Climate of fear.
my point is, if we go a goal down, I've not worded that correctly. If we go a goal down, I'm not sure about Celtic's current state of resilience.
Yeah.
I think if we play the way we can play and did do against Aberdeen and go a goal up, we could go 3 or 4 goals up. But I'm not sure how we respond to adversity.
Nah.
This is my only message for the players. So see, in terms of like,
I'll pass it on to them. What would you like to tell them?
see, instead of trying to shore up the back and players not being right for the system and all that stuff, right? Just teach them not to let their heads go down when they lose a goal, right? Just instill that, because that's what killed us against the D United.
But
Probably against the
Of which taking your chances then is even more paramount, because if you
Absolutely.
can
That's what I
see
mean.
2 goals, you're already
If you
5 up.
If you maintain your confidence, having just lost a goal, you're just going back at your triangles,
Aye.
back at the press,
Yeah.
back to goals. That's the only way we're going to get through this period, and maybe give the manager time.
As far as Livi goes, with the style of football that we're going to play, I know there's a wee bit of clash, but one thing Martindale's good at is he'll try and fill those gaps. It's then up to us to exploit them as quickly as we possibly can. That the pitch actually may be a help to that to some degree. With the Motherwell game, that I think there's potential there that just might be a high scoring draw. There might be more concession of points there because Motherwell are full of confidence at the moment. But I think as fans, what we'll be keen to see is just more conversion of chances.
Yeah.
I think we
it's
accept
the
that we're
only
going
way.
to give chances away. If we convert more that come our way, then it's going to make the games a more comfortable watch.
Aye.
Simple as that.
But your striker's not going to change.
Let me get to that in a minute.
Oh,
There is a suggestion. Livi haven't won in 16 games. I was just having a look there. In 16 games.
Oh,
So yeah, in terms of Celtic striking options, and we'll cover this in the pre-match on Friday, but what do we do? Do we persevere with Johnny Kenny? Does Nancy put an arm around his shoulder and try and G him up? Do we try and get something out of Shin Yamada? Do we take Maeda away from the left-hand side?
No,
It's been so effective.
No.
Right? I'm just putting them all out there, but none of them are the option. My option this morning, as per the Daily,
Oh, I missed the end of the daily.
it's only about 3 minutes long. Do you get bored halfway through?
I was on the way
busy.
here.
Anyway,
On the way.
my suggestion is, could you do worse than put James Forrest through the middle to get on the end of some of those chances?
Sort of
An
funny lad.
experienced, composed footballer.
roll the credits.
I'm out.
Give me the argument for why Johnny Kenny
He's
should
one of
play.
those controversial podcasters.
Roll the
Just doing
credits.
things to get everyone
Days for
talking.
the
You know,
sake
Get us cancelled.
He says Yang's a player and all that
Aye.
stuff as well.
trying to
Why
get
is
Oh, that wee save.
why is
Save it
Johnny
dead.
Kenny a better option than James Forrest at this moment?
Because Johnny
in time?
Kennedy. Johnny Kennedy.
Johnny Kenny does. How much do you like him?
Johnny Kenny is a striker, trained position striker, so therefore
Right out of
who's,
form.
who's low in confidence.
Yeah,
Rock bottom
Goals
confidence.
change that.
So when I made the suggestion on the Daily this morning about James Forrest, it's a legit option, I think. And someone countered by saying you could actually do worse than our top scorer, Benjamin Negren, who gets into brilliant positions and has scored more goals than anyone in a green and white shirt this year.
for the listeners, Miff just cut
Got
his
these
ears.
ears.
No, I would stick with Kenny.
Right, okay. It's not working, but okay. What's the old definition of madness and all that?
No. I just think he's a striker for a start.
He's at rock bottom. You
But-
can see it in his body language.
But again, listen, he's a professional footballer. He's a striker. The goals will come. You just need to play him. And
Yeah.
I think you stick with the striker
Aye.
as a striker. But is this the kind of, one of these things we look back for years to come, and it was a youth that gets started against Livi,
yeah, the
and then
frustration
that's
is
the person that got their break
we
and scored a
don't,
few
we don't
goals.
have that guy.
There's nothing in the
It
There's
was
youth.
Daniel Cummins and it was Rocco.
unfortunately,
Van Aert.
all away.
Osmond's in.
The reason I would also vouch for Kenny is that if it's sticky up there, it's going to be up in the air quite a bit, and I think he's got an aerial presence, Kenny, for knocking it
He's
on.
upper body strength.
Aye. So I think it will be Kenny.
Well, he'll be up against a couple of big farmers,
Obviously, the James Forrest, it's a left field suggestion, but Wilfried Nancy is a left field
Done it
kinda guy.
before under Rodgers.
That's the thing. So, it's that
Early.
Mikey Johnson get played through Rodgers and, didn't quite work. But I think what we know is that Wilfried Nancy won't be averse to trying something different. Anyway, whether it's James Forrest or Benji Negren or Johnny Kenny, I just think there's a call to be made, and I just don't think you can go with Kenny on current form and confidence. Can I push you on scoreline predictions for Livi? We'll catch Hibs next week. Livi?
2-0 Celtic.
4-0 Celtic. I think we're going to blitz them.
James, 18-0 Celtic.
Aye.
No,
I don't rate Nancy at all.
7-5.
This is the low ebb. No, 3-0.
Brilliant.
In the middle.
Your
Brilliant.
scorelines belay your general killings.
Aye.
I like how we're all keeping a clean sheet.
Aye. 2-0.
Despite having spent an hour saying,
Aye, I know. Aye. We're honking at the back.
Good podcast, this, eh?
2-0, 3-0, 4-0.
4-0, yes.
well, you might as well.
Right, go 5.
You might as well.
I think around about 3-0. I think Celtic will create a plethora of chances, which is what we're doing just now. Livi can't score, Livi can't defend. No one in 16.
And it's 4-0 Livingston.
No one in 16.
We like back to one.
You'd like to see a Celtic win there. Just a shout out to Ryan Doherty, actually, on our Patreon. It's Ryan who suggested Benjamin Negren. So let's see if he's right.
Tell Ryan
I'm
I'm
right.
after him.
Imagine
You
giving
love
him
it.
his full name and saying that. He's going to get dogs abuse online now.
Ryan strikes me. He's the kind of guy that would have the courage of his convictions and stand on
Sorry,
Benjamin
Ryan.
Negren. Paddy, I'll come to you. Final thoughts on another busy episode.
So I still think there's enough to try and get into January and give ourselves a good position for the remainder of this season. I don't think it's going to be as close as what people are saying. I know where we're at just now in terms of the league. I know that obviously we need to win this game in hand, but I still think if we get it right, if we do sign players that are going to improve us, we could run away with it. Because I still don't think Hearts will last the pace. I really don't. People are writing them up and praising them.
Cammy Devlin for you.
Oh, where you go, man! Absolutely no chance.
Right.
No chance.
Does he improve the midfield?
What?
Does he improve our
Do you-
midfield right now?
do you think he does?
I would never sign him for Celtic, but I still think he improves our midfield right now.
No,
Yeah.
I disagree with you there.
Yeah.
But let's send in a high, James.
No, right, okay.
Let's give it
Let's send in a high.
No to Cammy
I
Devlin.
can't wait for a bag of cans.
Generally feeling
Cammy Devlin episode.
you still feel fairly confident Celtic will get it right, sign players and win the league.
I don't feel confident about the signing players, but I still think we'll win the league.
So they are.
Do not feel confident with that, no.
You had us finishing third a few days ago.
I think until if we drop points the weekend, I would have. And Sunday morning, I think we were third favourites, 100%. It's
come
still
on.
game by game.
Third favourites on Sunday
I
morning.
mean, I suppose what Sunday teaches is they are awful, right? And Hearts weren't great,
No, they
but
were.
still miles ahead of Rangers.
But I would have said that, see in the semi-final, albeit different system we played under Neil, they looked really, really bad.
Make their centre halves face their own goal
Yeah.
and they collapse.
Yeah.
However, if you're going to get beat wearing your staunch orange kit.
I know. Somebody made a good point. He said, that's how I know we're doing all right if they're still wearing the orange kit.
They're rolling it out.
Pathetic, man.
Nonsense.
But yeah, so just your kind of final thoughts. Cautiously optimistic and then we'll game by game.
It's game by game, you know, and I think he's been put in Viddy's position and he's starting to kind of come out of where he put himself further in. And you've just got to keep winning. It's the only thing you can do. And, you know, the thing is, he doesn't have an absolute wealth of experience. You talk about Tisdale CVs, Nancy also. So he's just got to rely on his team, rely on his players, and just try and get the points on the board. That's all you can do.
And remind us the goose and the hissing and all that.
You have to pluck the goose without making it hiss, which means spend as little money possible without driving the fans mental.
Yeah. My final word goes to you.
I think the message is pretty clear. Just win, and the wins will buy time and buy support, which is what the currency that the manager needs. So I think what's developed over the past week or so is definitely an improved sentiment where everyone's wanting them to do well. And what I mean by that is some fans, myself included actually, were just feeling like it's not going to work because of the entire scenario. Not
Some of it
necessarily because
I've kept the receipts in the WhatsApp group.
so I just think it's not going to work. It's not going to work. But wins and seeing the players buy into it will have the fans then buy into it. So it's really just a case of getting the 3 points in both these games and taking us into the new year and seeing what happens.
So that's us for this Celtic Exchange Weekly this Christmas week. But don't forget to check out the Patreon channel if you want to enjoy even more episodes in the coming days. You can do so right now at patreon.com/Celtic Exchange. But all that aside, have a brilliant Christmas. Thanks for backing us throughout the year. We'll see you back soon for the next one.